is relatable, but my taxes. This is my first year running my own business, and I just got my taxes done, and so I owe. And my tax guy is like, Kelly, you're an entrepreneur, you're gonna always owe. So either you can owe at the end of the year, or you can, I gotta hire an accountant and take my taxes out quarterly, have them taken out. So that's something that I'm trying to make a decision on, because I'm going to continue to run my business and work for myself, but I don't want to owe.
Gotcha. So as far as I'm concerned, it is a requirement now to pay your taxes quarterly as an entrepreneur, not an optional thing. You're required to do that. So let's just lay that out there. If you don't do that, I think there are some fees involved. So you do have to pay quarterly taxes. I forget the months, but I think it's this month is considered the end of Q1, if I'm not mistaken. Then you have another payment due, I think, in like August, September. And then I think top of the year, January or December. I really forget how it works, but do you currently have a CPA, accountant, bookkeeper? What do you currently have on your team?
Just a tax preparer.
A tax preparer. And the tax preparer, you just got them, correct? Because you've only been in business 1 year. All right. So that means they're looking back at everything you did, right? Does this person, he or she, moving forward, do they have a service where you talk on a quarterly basis so you're not playing catch up?
Right. No, he doesn't provide that service. I would have to hire an accountant.
An accountant. Okay. So they're the one that just tell you, here's the forms you got to fill out, here's what you got to sign, and you are the one that kind of has to have the stuff ready, prepared.
Right. So I have to provide him with all my documentation, receipts, and different things like that that I accumulated throughout the year.
Yeah, they're the person that makes sure everything gets filed correctly. All right. So the accountant, I know the person that I have to kind of do everything for me.
All-in-one type of
kind of like an all-in-one type of a service. So for the time being, when you acquire this accountant, you want to be very specific as to what are they doing, what services are they covering, and how do they charge? Do they charge per service? Is it by billable hours like what lawyers do? Do they charge for every little knickknack? So when you're building a relationship in that area, definitely get an idea of what are we covering, because there's a lot, right? So it's your first year as a business owner, and what did you file as?
My business, I believe.
Yeah.
My business name. Yeah.
And is it an LLC?
Yes.
Just an LLC, right? Not an S corp or tax as an S corp selection.
No.
Okay, so just an LLC.
Just an LLC.
Gotcha. Was the business profitable?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Yes, I did profit this year.
Good.
Now I have another question. I was also thinking about just signing up for like Paycom. Like when I was working, we had a system, a payroll system.
Okay.
And so I was thinking about just signing up for the payroll system, and that payroll system will automatically like deduct my taxes for me.
Yeah, so
What do you think about that?
So you're just an LLC though. I'm an S corporation. Prior to that, I was a LLC. I didn't have an automatic payroll system because I wasn't paying myself anything. I didn't start paying myself until I knew the business was profitable. And there was enough to actually designate, a salary for myself. Until then, the LLC is just a pass-through. All right, so it moves from the business checking to the personal. Personal pays the taxes. Personal pays your personal bills. The business checking account is literally just to operate the business expenses. That's all it does, right?
So say that again. You moved from the business account, because that's currently what I have. When I was working at my job, I had the personal account and savings account, and then line of credit. Then I opened up my own business, so now I have the business account, and now the business account is making all the money, opposed to when I was getting my money direct deposited from my job, bi-weekly. So now you're saying that for you started with the business, and then you eventually moved over to back to your personal.
So an LLC is nothing more than just like it just creates a little bit of separation from your personal name and you doing business in this name, corporation.
Doing business as DBA.
Yeah. The entity itself it's just a pass through. So the only thing that the LLC business checking account does is just pay bills, right?
Yep.
Any leftover cash flow from the business, you can move that to the personal account, right? And then if this is your only thing that you do, this is your only, let's say the business is your only source of income, well, you need money to live personally to pay for all your personal stuff.
Right.
That's where you don't commingle, right? You don't use your business account to pay for personal stuff. That's the whole idea of
exactly. Yeah.
Right.
I only use the business account, like you said, to pay bills. If I need to do something personal and if I don't have it in my personal account, I will transfer funds.
When you go to file and you start talking about automating for payroll, technically you don't have anything set up yet, so it would be pointless to be paying money for some automatic thing, but you don't have an actual you're not an actual employee in your business. You're just the owner, and you operate and you do business. So when income is generated, minus expenses, minus deductions, you're now left with what is actually taxable. And that gets your personal account pays the taxes, right? That's how I have it set up, where when I go to pay the IRS, I'm giving them, you're doing a 1040, I believe. I think there's
what was it? I forget. Wait a minute.
Or 1040A, maybe a 1040A or K1. I mean, there's different types of forms, but
the 1099.
Well, 1099 is self-employed tax, right? So if you're contracting yourself, you want to make sure you're doing it through the LLC. So, for example, I have a life insurance license to sell life insurance, right? The license is under Denzel Rodriguez, social security number, personal address, so it's in my name. The corporation, Builder to Contributor LLC, has authority over the license, but I have to let the broker know to pay Builder to Contributor so that I don't do a 1099. That it's the business, I now share the license, right? So now the business is getting paid. That little switch right there changes my tax liability. So these are some interesting questions that you have. Personally, I prefer, if I was to restart and do everything all over again, the thing that you would automate, if you can afford it, is the whole bookkeeping stuff. All the money coming in, money going out, the transactions, the receipts, taking a photo, like having an app, whether it's through QuickBooks or something like to that nature. That's great to start with, because you're automating the bookkeeping process, making sure everything's in line. But you don't need to be paying extra money for a payroll service, because that stuff costs money. Like those payroll things, like I think I pay $150 a month just to automate my payroll. Like that's annoying, but it's part of the game. And so I have 2 employees in my business. I use Gusto, Gusto, and that automates the payroll process. QuickBooks does it. Most of these platforms do it. But until you actually set that up where you are actually an employee of your business, no need, I would say, to have that. Because all you're doing throughout the month, money comes in, you pay business expenses, what's left over, you transfer the personal checking account you live off of, right? Whatever you don't need stays in the account. At the end of the year, that's profit. You're getting taxed on that amount minus deductions, et cetera, et cetera. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Cool.
It does. That was helpful.
Any other questions, or would anybody else like to chime in? Anything specific going on in your journey to build wealth? Because this is part of it. When you're creating streams of income, you're going to run into this block like, whoa, what's going on with taxes? What do I do with this? What do I do with that? If not, I'll go into the actual little topic lesson that I have. Anyone else want to go? Good. Thumbs up. Go like that. If you're like, okay, cool. So let's actually talk about the different streams of income. And like I said earlier, Dr. Eddie alluded it to earlier. It says the average millionaire has 7 streams of income. but there's actually 7 different terms of how you define those incomes. I know other people may say it differently, but this is about as accurate as it's gonna get. You Google 7 different streams of income, you'll see these words. In IRS terms, there might be a little bit different, but here are the 7 different streams of income. Before you even get into any of this stuff, like I always say in all my videos, gotta know your numbers first. Where do you stand? What's coming in? What's going out? How much debt do you have? What's your remaining positive net cash flow each and every month? There are 3 key principles or details that I have been operating in my finances now in my business for the last 4 years. It's just a mindset that I have because it will translate to how I develop these streams of income. So number 1, my number 1 focus in my finances is creating cash flow. Cash flow is the number 1 most important thing I can possibly do with money, is create cash flow. Without cash flow, you cannot save. Without cash flow, you can't invest. Without cash flow, you can't splurge at Louis Vuitton. Without cash flow, you can't go on vacation. Without cash flow, you can't pay off debt faster. Without cash flow, you're not going to be able to build credit quickly. So cash flow is everything. Now, my mindset is I create cash flow over net worth, and we'll get into why and what that actually means. Most of us are taught to build our net worth. They'll say your net worth is your net worth, right? That's a really cool line, right? It's not bad. I don't disagree with it. It's true. But that can sometimes translate ineffectively with your finances. A lot of us are taught to take whatever cash flow we have and put it into net worth building, such as a 401k or any type of qualified retirement account, or saving your money instantaneously. Like as soon as I have the cash flow, you're told to put that money away, right? And have it accumulate over a period of time, 40 years, 30 years, 50 years, and then you get to a point of liquidate where you accumulated so much money, millions of dollars, that now you can live off of those millions of dollars for the rest of your life. And I'm here to tell you that is a huge there's a huge flaw in that strategy. And the flaw in that strategy is you simply will not have enough money when you hit the retirement age or the desired age where you say, I'm done. Thank you. Have a nice day. When you say, I quit from that job, and you release yourself of those duties, and you now live off the harvest that you created in those working years of your life. So I'm going to get into why that is extremely dangerous to have a strategy of net worth, accumulating versus creating cash flow. And then I'm going to prove to you how much quicker you can create cash flow over net worth and how cash flow can feed your net worth. The second thing is debt is your friend when you offset. What that simply means is if I'm going to borrow from Peter to pay Paul, or if I'm just borrowing from Peter to invest with Paul to create cash flow, as long as I can offset whatever my borrowing cost is, the debt is no longer a negative thing, a negative action in my finances. Rather, it's a positive action forward in my finances. And third, this is kingdom stuff. Own nothing and control everything. The ultra wealthy of the world do not own anything in their name. They release ownership in their name and they put it in artificial names, created names that have a separate jurisdiction to the IRS, where IRS has no jurisdiction, no authority, or they're simply in alignment. They're at the same level as the IRS. So therefore, IRS does not tax them because they're not below them. If you're equal to or above something, right? If we're talking about the order of things, say for example, God, we don't charge God tax. No, he charges us a tax. Same goes if I'm operating in the United States of America, I'm a citizen, I'm below the US. So as a citizen, I owe tax to the government. But if I can create an artificial name, an artificial person, and create wealth in that person on paper, and it is according to all the rules and regulations and jurisdictions of the United States, to the point where now I'm equal with the IRS, Federal Reserve, the government, I'm equal to it, then they do not bother me. We've become interdependent on each other. So they don't tax me and I don't tax them. We do business with each other, and I receive tax reductions, I receive incentives, I receive immunities, etc., because I'm not below that order, right? I'm equal to, or in some cases, above it. If I get above something, it no longer has authority to tax me, to tell me what to do, how to do it, when to do it. So if you don't own anything, how can a jurisdiction tax you if you are broke on paper? You don't own anything, but you retain control over the thing, right? So I don't own my business, right? I don't own the real estate. I don't own these different things. No, the business owns it, and I am a member or a trustee. I am an operator in that organization, and the organization feeds me. I'm now interdependent on the structure. Take it to the kingdom. If I am a citizen of the kingdom of heaven, the author is God. He owns everything alone as himself. He has authority over everything. If I get under that correct authority, well, release all ownership unto him. No other jurisdiction can tax me anything whatsoever. I just gave everything to the kingdom. That was my tax. That was my offering. And now I am simply having access and control over God's resources, because that is what his book authorizes me to do, to have dominance, dominion, market share, control over the thing, the resources, the seed, the harvest. As long as I steward it correctly, properly, no tax, number one, no lack, number two, infinite amount of resources, etc. My quote unquote needs are met. All my requirements are met. And now I'm living in abundance. So those are those three keys. I'm attacking this logically and spiritually at the same time. So here we go with the logic stuff. Here in the United States and in other countries, this is probably very similar. At the top, you have earned income as an employee or self-employed 1099. Highest tax bracket you can possibly be in is in earned income. If you ever read the book, The Cash Flow Quadrant by Robert Kiyosaki, he goes over the importance of moving from this jurisdiction of earned income and self-employment income to big business and investor type income. The tax liability is less, the income potential is much higher. Either you do this or you don't. If you don't, you will never, I promise you, you will never achieve financial freedom, because it is at its core, you are reliant, you are dependent on the business owner or the investor. Or the G. We'll give it a little G, not the big G, but the little G. You know what the little G is? The government. So there is no way impossible to stay here and expect to be free ever. It's impossible. Now, some might disagree. That's fine. But if I was to look at their numbers, I promise you there is a limitation as to how they can live. Now, you can pretty it up and say, oh, I live below my means, and I don't do this, and I don't do that, and I don't do this. You know, I had a very interesting conversation with a gentleman in his 50s, and he refuses to go to this side of the equation. His argument was, Denzel, I am an average man. I'm an average man. I'm an average person. I do average things. I'm average. I said, under whose authority do you speak from when you say this word? This is very key information. Under whose authority do you say I'm average? And he said, well, I speak under my authority. I said, well, that makes sense, because if you were under the authority of your creator, they would have a different answer, because your author, by the way, only produced one of you. There will never be another one of you. There has never existed one of you before in human history. And after you're dead, my friend, there will never be another one of you. So that bold statement right there makes you uniquely beautiful, that to reduce that statement to average is a disrespectful, insulting statement to your creator, which is why you responded, you're under the authority of yourself. That makes sense. So I stopped the argument there. I said, as long as I won't argue that. For those of you in the room that are quote unquote Christians, quote unquote kingdom citizens, quote unquote, I represent the kingdom of heaven here on earth. I am a woman of God. I am a man of faith. Well, if you ever tell me you're average, I'm simply going to ask you, under whose authority do you speak? Because that is a dangerous statement to say that you are average. If you are an employee, if you are a self-employed individual and you stay here for your whole life, then essentially you did not live to your fullest potential. Why? Because your creator gave you ideas in your brain. Those ideas turn into talents, treasures, gifts, authority. It's impossible to have an idea but stay as an employee. Because if you have an idea as an employee and you go to your employer and you share that idea, the employer takes your idea, puts it in an artificial corporation called a business, and they expand the idea forward. Guess who receives the different streams of income? Not you, because you have no authority. You went to your employer. If they were nice, they will teach you and show you, hey, that's a great idea. You ought to get a trademark. You ought to build a business. You ought to protect the idea. In a what? You can't protect your idea in an employment job. You can't protect your idea in a self-employment position. You can only protect the idea in a business, in a association, in a ministry, in a church, in a organization, in a corporation, depending on what jurisdiction you're in. It's the only way. So that's why I'm saying it's impossible. So are we in agreement with that so far? Are we in alignment? You can come off mute or comment. Are we in agreement with that statement, or is there any rebuking or rebuttal to that?
No.
Clear? Good? Okay, cool. Just want to make sure we're on the same page. So with that being said, it's very important to figure out how we transition to the B and the I. And here's where you get into your different streams of income. And I kind of gave a little explanation of each one. Earned income, E and the S, highest tax rate there is. Dividend income. Now here's the thing. You can have all these different incomes except for profit, if I'm not mistaken, but you can have the rest of these incomes under your name and you will pay the highest tax with the least amount of protection versus transferring to the business owner and investor quadrant, earning dividends on stocks and shares that the company owns. You reduce your tax liability. When the business owns the real estate, you reduce your tax liability. Royalty income. If you're an author, if you have a process, if you have a system, if you have a church, if you have an invention, you can create royalty where it's in perpetuity for as long as the process, the system flows and people continue to use it. Interest on your money or the business money. Anytime you lend money out, if you become the bank and you start lending to the different nations, that's where scripture starts coming in. You start lending to different nations, you charge interest. That interest comes back into you. That's interest income coming back to the structure that you built. Capital gains is just referring to an asset such as a real estate. When it increases in value, that is a capital gains. All of these different things are classifications that we file to the IRS when you are a corporation, LLC, S Corp, C Corp, or when you start getting into the higher level of things, you start operating in trusts. We have a business trust, a family trust, a charitable remainder trust, a living trust. You get what's called a complex trust layer, right? Based on common law, you're able to move all this income into essentially a zero tax liability position. Last is profit, which is what we were just discussing with Kelly. Profit income is taxed differently, right? So all these things are taxed in different ways and become advantageous the more you move to the right side of the quadrant. So are there any questions on the different streams of income? I can share with you some incomes that I actually have that would fall under these different things. But are there any questions so far? Okay, Kelly's good. Amy's good. Shamika's, I think you're good. Let me know. All right, so these are clear. Now, the opportunities that I see in the marketplace today are arguably one of the best in terms of creating a stream of income with the purpose of producing cash flow, right? So I'll give you an example of a stream of income that does not produce cash flow, right? And that is your 401k. And you're like, wait a minute. Yes, it does. As long as I keep putting money into it, eventually I can live out of it. I can pull money from it. Correct, but it's not a consistent cash flow model where something is turning the wheel. See, if you have a 401k or any type of retirement account, name any number you want, whether it's $3 million, $5 million built up, understand it is designed for you to liquidate, eventually goes to zero. So that's not a proper cash flow vehicle. A proper cash flow vehicle, regardless of what the asset is worth, it always produces a flow, a stream, a cash flow. So for example, a house or a multitude of houses in a multi-family development, right? It doesn't matter if the house is worth $1 million today, then it loses 20% of its value, then it goes up 30%, then it goes down, then it goes up, then it goes down, then it goes up. Doesn't matter, because each door continues to pay, and that is cash flow constantly coming to you in this form, rental income, in a better jurisdiction, business investor classification, where the liability, the tax liability, is reduced all the way to zero in many cases. You cannot, I repeat, you cannot achieve this on the E and the S side, can't achieve it on the E and the S side with this type of asset. 401k, retirement account, any type of retirement account, it's not achievable because you have the highest tax bracket, number one, you have inflation, and you have devaluation. These are three things. You have inflation, taxation, and devaluation. These three things alone can cut $5 million down to less than 2.5 million. And then we haven't even gotten into living expenses, which is another 33%. So that wipes out. Now you're left with about under $1 million or less. And then you map that out over a period of time. The money runs out every single time before you die. Does not serve the correct purpose that it was designed to do. Unfortunately, it just doesn't. I've been trying to figure it out. I've worked with hundreds of families all over the United States, thousands at this point, all over the United States. I have not met a single retired man or woman that has honestly told me that their 401k, their retirement account, has produced financial freedom. I have not met a single person yet. And even if I did, and when I do, I guarantee you they have other streams of income in their portfolio that actually produces the cash flow that they need to move forward. So any questions on that, or is that pretty clear? Shall I continue? And I'll just take this out the way. Any questions so far? Is this good? Is this good for you, Eddie? Is this good stuff, or is this like a refresher?
No, this is good. This is good.
Okay, you're familiar with this?
Yeah, I've seen that structure for those things, before. So yeah, this is good that you're breaking it down.
Gotcha. Okay. Another example of what is not a cash flow vehicle would be the accumulation of stocks or the accumulation of cryptocurrency. Rather, something that we talked about in previous discussions was create content, right? So if I get on social media and I build a social media channel that I educate and I sell services, right? Or products, yes, on my channel, I can create cash flow with work that I do one time. So if I create one video and in that video has a link that sends the viewer to a service or product, that was work I did once. Now multiply that over 600 plus videos now. Today is what I have on my YouTube channel. I now have a multitude of videos that I created one time, uploaded it one time, and now it is public information, and it stays running and running and running and running, right? Even after I die, the money won't stop. That's another indication to determine whether or not you have a true cash flow vehicle or not. Will the money stop when I die? If not, then all you did was accumulate and liquidate, accumulate and liquidate. That is a terrible model, right? And I'm going to use a real example later on. So if I sell services, products by creating content, I can create cash flow simply from the video that talks about the service or the product or the education that I'm providing through sponsorships, collaboration, affiliate marketing, referral marketing, network marketing, when I network with people and I market to people. So the video can make money by itself, whether the service sells or not. So I'll go ahead and pull up my YouTube channel for you guys so I can show you what the YouTube channel has done for itself over the last few years. Let me go like this. Boom. So we go to the studio, Creator Studio backend, go to analytics. Let's do 2021. So 2021, the videos by itself made $12,863.74. That is cash flow. I could stop making content and money will continue to flow, right? It'll just keep flowing. 2022 so far generated $3,732.38. This may not seem like a lot of money, but when you take this and do it over a multitude of the same time frame that it would take you to accumulate $3 million, $5 million, I can achieve what would take 40 years. I can achieve it in 7 or less, because accumulating and producing cash flow is much easier and much faster than saving what little cash flow I have or investing what little cash flow I have in what is called a rate of return, right? An average rate of return. That is a loser's game. It really is. You're playing checkers while everybody else that's making a ton of money is playing chess. It's the same board, right? If you look at a chess and a checkers board, it's literally the same board, different pieces, different rules. So we look at the lifetime, it's produced $43,512.92. To date, I have 42,200 subscribers. So each subscriber is worth a couple dollars, if not more. I think there is a way for me to actually correlate everything, but the channel itself has gotten over 3 million views. So there's more than 42,000 people watching the YouTube channel. There's millions and only 42 subscribed. But out of the 3.2 million, I think the average person that watches the material, let me see, engagement. So the average person is watching 10 whole minutes each and every time. In those 10 minutes, YouTube will play ads, and then I have links in the description that in those 10 minutes they are likely to click on something, right? And that will lead to more sales. But just looking at videos alone, 43,000, and you multiply that over a 4, 10, 15, 40 year period, I could easily be generating multiple 6 figures just from the videos itself without selling anything any longer and without working any harder for a different result. Stays the same. So now let me take you over to my courses and we can see what let's go to sales. Okay, in the last 30 days I made $14,301 from my courses alone. So in addition to creating content, that is a stream of income that would fall under royalty and profit, I believe, right? Because it's not real estate, it's not a capital gains. I'm not loaning money and I'm not earning the money. It's coming in royalty form to the business. The business created a process. You guys follow me so far? the business, builder to contributor, created a process. It hired Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez to create content, to display and educate and teach and inspire the process. The process produced cash flow. The cash flow is now in a reduced tax liability environment that allows for more cash flow, so that Denzel Napoleon Rodriguez has the resources to multiply the seed it's been given, the seed that Denzel has been given, to grow the harvest. Once the harvest is built, Denzel no longer has to work as hard to plant more seeds, because the process now has a multitude of other people leveraging other people's time, other people's money, other people's time, talent, and treasure to do the same thing that I did once. I'm now in an educational, strategic, philanthropic position to multiply my works. You guys follow me with that so far? Is that clear? Good stuff. So creating content is a stream of income. Providing products and services, creating videos, right? So in my products, right, it's an invention. I created something. I created a system. I made a product out of it. I called it a course, a program, online education, e-learning. And with that course or courses, all time on this platform has produced just shy of 400 grand. If we were to spread that out over a 3-year period, that's $132,000.88, right? So I'm gonna bring it back to the board real quick. Let me tell you how much more faster we go when we focus on cash flow rather than trying to accumulate net worth. So from the courses alone, on average, over the last 3 years, it has produced $132,088, and it should continue to do that. Now, does anybody know how much money you would need to have in net worth to be able to withdraw $132,088? So this is where things get very, very interesting. Does anyone know the equation for that? Because I'm actually still learning it myself. I wanted to know if anyone knew the math behind it. I can try to guess it, but then it depends on the percentage that we withdraw each and every year to get 132,000. So if I had $13 million, right, $13.2 million, if you were to times that by 10%, 1.3 million, and let me see if I can times it by 4%. What do we get? Okay, so 13. Yeah, so 1%, that's what I had in my head. 1% of $13 million is 132,000. If you wanted to only withdraw 1% from your portfolio to have $132,000 a month come, $132,000 a year come to you, you would need $13 million to do that. Now you can reduce the number and try to figure out, okay, what would be the, if I'm not mistaken, all the financial gurus, they use 4%. You guys heard about this? The whole 4% distribution model. Are we familiar with that? Mimi, Shamika? No? So in order to achieve quote unquote financial freedom, in the financial advisor world, where you work with the Edward Jones and the Vanguards and the John Hancocks, right? All these investment advisors, they'll all tell you that you need to, they'll ask you how much money do you need to live on, right? Every year. So let's say you use the number 130 grand and you're 25 years old. So they'll map it out and they'll say, okay, you need to save X amount of dollars a month for the next 40 years. So that by age 65, you'll be able to live off 132,000. You'll be able to withdraw $132,000 a year, divide that by 12, however much that is. And so you have to accumulate all this money just to get 130 grand. Versus what if you just focused on creating a system that can just produce $130,000? Does that, you guys follow me so far? Like if I just produced 130 grand a year, 200,000 a year, 50,000 a year from different cash flow vehicles, it'll just keep coming. I don't need to have $5 million in the bank. I don't need to have $1 million stored There's no need, because money stored is dead, right? If money is sitting not doing nothing, it's dead. It has no use. It's just dead. When money is in motion, when it is in a flowing state, that is much more effective to create the wheel that continues to spin no matter what. Just continues to spin. Create that wheel, that money flow wheel, and then the excess from the production of the wheel that you created, which is cash flow, the excess, now go ahead, have your little emergency fund in your bank account. Have your little qualified retirement accounts, your Roths, your REITs, your syndications. Have those be protection over the wheel, not liquidation, where you just reduce everything to zero. Rather, from the excess of your cash flow, you're putting it into safety vehicles that provide insurance, that provide protection, that reduce your liability, etc., etc. When emergencies and crises happen, you can pull from these vehicles to keep feeding the wheel. Eventually, the wheel feeds you, right? The cash flow vehicles that you create, eventually, it's the seed creates a harvest. And now you can live from the harvest. You eat from the harvest. It'll just keep on producing and producing and producing. Provides that protection. Any questions on that so far? Is that like crystal clear? Any questions? All good? So are we in agreement that it is faster to produce cash flow to hit any number you want than it is to accumulate and save and invest your money in those compounding retirement type vehicles, which could be crypto, could be stocks, bonds, mutual funds, ETFs, index funds, could be cash value life insurance, could be bonds, CDs, money market accounts, savings accounts, right? All of these provide some kind of compounding effect. There's nothing wrong with it. It's just that the mindset that a lot of us have over it, we think that's the answer. That's merely protection. It provides protection, provides insurance, reduces tax liability. That's great. But the cash flow is the key. If you can produce cash flow where you work one time or a multitude of times on a specific thing to the point where you no longer have to put your hands, feet, mind, energy into it. You literally transfer everything you know into the next being or multitude of beings, aka other employees, aka other laborers, aka other people. So now what happens? You now created opportunities for all of these people that didn't exist before. You had a seed, you planted the seed, you did not eat from the seed, you let it grow, and now it can feed you and 25 other people. Now, imagine if you did that in a church kingdom-like environment. Your results could be amplified even more under the correct authority. So this is where I like to just go back and, share some numbers. At this point, I'm pretty much made my point in regards to creating streams of income. We went over the different labels, talked about some opportunities. I'll actually share with you some more. So in addition to courses, the other thing that I think is a very underrated is licensing. So that could be a real estate license, a health insurance license, a life insurance license, anything that requires a period of education, an exam, a test, a certification. You are now licensed doctor, right? You're a licensed physician, you're a chiropractor, you're a licensed trainer, a licensed health coach, life coach, financial coach. You are, in other words, authorized. If someone has a license, right, in the jurisdiction of the United States, you have a professional touch to the work that you do, increases the value of what you do, which results in a higher pay. So another example is I am a licensed life insurance agent. So that's just an example. I'm a life agent. And since becoming a licensed life insurance agent over the last 3-4 years, has produced over $350,000 in revenue for providing a service. Again, it's a service, but it required a license. So there's an entry point, there's education involved, there's training involved, there's sales and marketing, etc., etc. It cost say a couple $100s, maybe thousands, depending on what license we're getting. But then it's able to produce a stream, in many cases, streams of income. So as a licensed life insurance agent, when I sell a whole life insurance product, I get paid one time for selling that product. And then as long as the client keeps the policy in place, I'll receive what's called a residual, or in other words, would be royalty, for an additional 10 years on the same work that I did one time for that client. I'll get paid one big chunk up front, then I get paid in little bites, little pieces over 10 years. So imagine if I help 100, 1,000, 10,000 people over a 30, 40 year period, just add zeros, right? Just add zeros. Eventually, over a 30, 40 year period of time, I have a residual stream of income that never ends. And if I'm real smart, I learn to teach. And if I want to go biblical, Genesis, multiply the fruit. Multiply doesn't always refer to creating babies in the Bible. A lot of people just think it's, that's just, make babies. No, had a lot more to do with that. Multiplying the garden, multiplying everything that comes out of the trees, everything that comes out of the plants, everything that comes out of the ground. Multiply, multiply, multiply. So you learn, then you teach one, and the one you taught learns to teach one. Each one teach one to reach one. Take it from Jesus Christ himself. He acquired 12 disciples. He manifested as much as he possibly could in those 3.5 years of preaching, and he put it all into those 12 disciples. And then he says, go out 2 by 2, 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2. If you go out 2 by 2 by 2 by 2 by 2, eventually you cover the whole entire world. It's only like, if I'm not mistaken, like 20 generations deep. You cover the whole entire world, 7 billion people, or something like that, if I'm not mistaken. Like the power of multiplication is insane. Just going out 2 by 2 by 2. So licensing, that's a stream of income. Now, I deal with a lot of single moms. I deal with a lot of employees and self-employed people. Oftentimes, this doesn't translate too well to people who have been indoctrinated to work for someone for so many years, 30, 40, upwards of 50 years. So what does translate, or at least allow them to tread water, so they're not drowning, and they're allowed to actually look above and see what's out. They can see the light at the end of the tunnel. And so I'll talk to them about these terms: promotion, raise, and I try to bring these things to their work environment, where I can say, how can we take your employment position or your self-employment position, turn that employee to an entrepreneurial type of role? So I just simply, when I'm working with a lot of single moms, families all across the United States that have solid careers, solid jobs, but they're struggling because they're sending their cash flow into these other locations, I say, what if we redirect the cash flow back to you in your control? And let's say I'm dealing with a nurse. I was literally just talking to a nurse today. I didn't ask her for her age. I forgot, but I want to say she's in her 40s, and she is a nurse. So she has the proper certifications, the education, right? So she has a career, makes good money. She's trying to build wealth for her children. She's got 3 kids, I think, in the middle of a divorce right now. So that's going on. What we're working on is I'm saying, okay, how do we take all of the knowledge that you've acquired being a nurse for 10 years, 15 years, 20 years, however long it's been, how do we take all that knowledge and document it? Whether it's via writing, talking, video, photos, or a multitude of everything. And how do we create a step-by-step process as to how you got to the position you got to, as to how you got to where you got to today, and just put it out there for the world to see. It doesn't take away from your time because it's something that you know. So you don't even have to think. I had a chiropractic session today with this awesome guy. He's 61 years old. When the guy talks about chiropractic work, you just immediately believe everything that comes out of his mouth because the guy is so passionate. He's confident. He believes in every single word he says, that the energy just flows from his mouth to your ears, to your subconscious mind, and you just surrender to his authority. You're like, sure, do whatever you got to do to my body and make sure I'm standing straight, posture's right. Oftentimes, we don't realize you have a career, you're doing something for so many years that you become a master in. If all you did was document the process, you could multiply yourself by simply giving value for free. Video content, blogs, articles, podcasts, pictures, you name it, etc., etc. And so you're talking about the process. That's video content. That could create a couple dollars a month, which leads to a couple $100, which leads to a couple $1,000, to a couple tens of thousands of dollars in a very short period of time. That's one route. So I'm working with this mother. I'm saying, talk about what you know already. Okay, explain the process. Okay, now you can position yourself as a speaker in that industry, and the corporations can hire you, a nurse that's also a speaker, because you're speaking about something you've been doing for 10, 15 years, and they pay you $10,000 to speak to 500 nurses, to 300 nurses on how to maintain your mental stability, how to maintain your health, your body, right? How to pull those 10, 12, 15-hour shifts. Is that not valuable for a corporation? Would a corporation not pay tens of thousands of dollars to have one of their very own speak to their own in such an authoritative position? And now you're getting paid tens of thousands of dollars to do something that you do naturally all day long, which is talk and speak. So now you're a speaker like Dr. Eddie Connor, getting paid to speak on a thing that you already know. Third stream of income, you got your career income, the video content, the speaking, okay? 3 strings, boom. A fourth is you start creating a brand. Before you know it, you got the shirts, the hats. I mean, you can go that route if you want, or you can go the sponsorship route. You can say, I wear these scrubs. I wear these shoes. I wear these insoles. I wear this type of makeup. I do my hair this type of way. I go to this person. I go to this bank. I bank here. I invest with this person. I bought my life insurance policy with this person. So now you're getting referral and sponsorship income, all from things that you already know. So it's not like you have to drop everything and learn how to become a YouTuber. No. Don't even take it that way. Just take it as, how do I document the process of everything that I've been doing in my life and move forward with it? So hopefully that translates for those who are here right now, and then obviously people who catch the replay, those who are employees, self-employed, if like courses and video and creating content and selling products and services and becoming licensed, like you're looking at it one-dimensionally. If you look at it at like the third and fourth dimension, you'll be like, oh, I can translate all of that to my industry. I mean, how many nurses, how many doctors, how many construction people, how many, name any career you want. There is not very many people talking about the very thing it takes to become that particular role. An engineer, a tech person, social media. I mean, not a whole lot out there. You may think there's a lot, but there's nothing close to a lot yet. So any questions so far? Is this good stuff? How am I on time, Eddie? Am I good?
Doing good, brother.
Doing good?
Doing good. I keep looking at your sleeves, man. I need that shirt.
Yeah, this is the Buttercloth brand. I'm not sure. This was on Shark Tank. Here's another example. I've been wearing these shirts for multiple years now, and I wear these. I wear Movado watches all the time on my YouTube channel. Eventually, when I muster up the courage, I'm gonna reach out to these companies and create a deal, create a sponsor. Say, hey, dude, I have so many people asking me what type of shirts I be wearing. Do you guys have an affiliate agreement? Movado watches. I love Movado. Nice, it's clean, it's simple, doesn't cost ridiculous amount of money. So Movado's a huge company. What do? They sell watches. Okay, they can use a sponsor. Let's say I have 1 million subscribers, 500,000 subscribers. I reach out to Movado. All they see is this guy writing on the board. That's all they see is their watches all day long. People are looking. They're looking at my hands. They're looking at the type of marker they're looking. So everything I do, I want to be in a position it can one day generate cash flow, right? I just need to develop the processes, the systems to manage all that so I don't get overwhelmed. That's why I haven't reached out to Movado yet. That's why I haven't reached out to the Buttercloth company. I'm just not ready. It's not even a focus of mine. I'm doing these other systems that are creating way more cash flow for me to be trying to get dollars and cents from selling watches. That's not what I do. But eventually, after doing it for so long, I can just easily have a link and just boom, directs it to the website. I get credit. It's not hard, right? Any questions? Since we've been here, I'm pretty much complete here. Was this valuable? Is there anything you want to add? Now's the time. All right, I'm gonna leave a bunch of time for Q&A, but I'm pretty much done here. I think Tanisha tuned. I'm not sure when you tuned in, but if you have any questions, let me know. I think Kelly had to drop off. Anything for you, Eddie? Is this good stuff?
Yeah, this is good stuff. No, I guess more so, let's say, for instance, I was looking at how you were showing your YouTube. Let's say somebody is starting, their YouTube now. I think you have to get, 4,000 hours and 1,000 subscribers.
Correct.
To start even, I guess that's what you have to do to start making money, right?
That's all you have to do is, in my opinion, is really sit down and evaluate what gifts, talents, and treasures you have been given by your manufacturer. And then how do we convert that into creating content, right? And then the previous sessions that we did goes over different tools that, you want to acquire to create the video content. But all you're doing is just educating people. You don't have to come off right off the bat selling. All I'm trying to do is we're trying to create a system. That's my whole thing, is I want to create a system, a process, a foundation that once it gets going, it's game over from there. So that's the position that I'm in right now. I'm in a position where it's like the wheel has been built, the process, the systems have been built. All I got to do is keep feeding it for the next 30, 40 years, right? And just stay consistent. Now, when I'm dealing with people who are double my age, almost triple my age, I focus on what their careers are and where they're at in their journey. If I'm, like I said, if I'm dealing with a 50-year-old, 55-year-old, and they got 10 years to retirement, we have got to look the skills, gifts, and talents that they have, and we have to figure out what would be the first thing we need to do. And in most cases, I'm looking at their careers, and that's where I was talking about promotion, raises, equity. Right, that was another word I left out. I'm like, how do we gain equity in the company that you practically built? Right, I have clients that have built companies that they don't own, and I'm like, dude, it's a simple conversation with your bosses, with your managers, to let them know what your worth is. Right, so promotion, raise, and equity. These words translate a lot easier than these words, because oftentimes when people watch this, they're like, oh, but I don't know how to create content. I don't know how to sell. Or I don't know how to make a course, Denzel. I'm 65 years old. I'm 60 years old. Or I don't have money to get a license. Like, all I hear is excuses. But these words, it translates a lot easier. It's the same thing. So I'm like, how do you get a promotion? How do you get a raise? What if by working in the corporation that you work for, you can get a promotion 5 times faster by creating video content for your company? See that? I created the bridge or raise. How do you get into the meeting rooms where the real business goes down, where you can talk about equity? How you've been working for the company for 15 years, you've got 0 equity. Imagine getting 1% of a $10 million corporation. Anybody know what 1% of $10 million is? Do the math on your calculator. Someone shout it out. I know what it is. I want you to do the math.
Y'all got this one.
Come on now. Get your calculator out. 10 million times 1%. What is it, Mimi?
I don't know. I said 100,000. I'm guessing.
There you go. 100,000.
Oh, right. I got it right. I didn't want to.
100,000. I'll give you an example. I'll close out with this. Right? This might translate very well. Or might not. I don't know. Depends on what the women in here listen to. If you listen to too much of them alpha male coaches like Samuel and all them people, then this might come off wrong. But if you're kingdom, this is gonna translate real well. So this word, helper, this word has a negative connotation. Would everybody agree? In the marriage dating realm, right? We see all that content. Y'all agree with that? The word helper, you're the help, right? Remember the movie The Help? It's always used negatively, which makes absolutely no sense, because the word help, right? If I ask Shamika for help, it's implying that she knows something that I don't know, or she is stronger than me in a thing than I am. So therefore she is higher. Is that not true? Does anybody agree with that? If I ask Shamik, hey Shamik, I need help with my girlfriend on this issue, and I know that you boom boom boom, you do this really well. Or if I go to Dr. Eddie, I'm like, hey, I'm trying to write a book. You wrote, what is it now, over 10? Is that how many books you wrote? How many, Eddie? 13. Eddie wrote 13 books. I wrote 0. Eddie knows something more than I do. If I go to him for help, it's implying that he knows something more than I do. He is stronger in an area than I am. Okay. Well, that word is labeled on woman in the Bible, if I'm not mistaken. Right? Women are the helpmate. It implies that when Eve was created, she is. Women are women. They just are. There is. You're in a being. You're done. Complete. So when Eve came on the scene, she had everything Adam had because she came out of Adam and she got some upgrades. So the man must become who he is. That's why it takes longer for a man to develop maturity and to build wealth and accumulate. It takes him longer. A woman just is. Just walks in authority. Done. It's there. Authority has been granted since day one. Just boom. So what I tell my clients is, how can we, regardless of man or female, male or female, how can we step into a helper role where it is implied that anyone that asks for my help knows that I can do it better than them, but I choose to surrender and help them grow their vision, their mission. Let's take it to the business realm. Okay? Prime example. Here is a corporation called IBC Global, right? I am a man. I am becoming who I am, quote unquote. That's my charge. So I'm a male. I work to become. Work means become who I am. I found another leader of another corporation. He controls this operation, IBC Global. This particular individual has a vision to have 100 employees and to generate $100 million by 2030. Now, in order to make money with this organization, you have to have a license, specifically a life insurance license. So I acquired the knowledge. I acquired the training. I then found someone that's doing things the way that I would like to do it one day. They are ahead of me. They came before me. So I'm leveraging the fact that they have a foundation, they have the financial resources, they have the organization, the people. They're currently at 40 employees and they are a 7-figure operation currently. It's 2022. In 8 years, they'll produce $100 million just from being a helper. If I just got 3 to 5% of 100 million, that's not a bad payday. Would you guys agree? Like, imagine by 2030, they're generating $100 million a year. And then in year 2030, I get 5% of 100 million. 10% of 100 million is 10 million. 5% is 5 million. 3%, 3 million. So anywhere from $3 to $5 million a year just from being a helper. $3 to $5 million a year in cash flow is an insane amount of money for helping, just helping, helper. I was a helpmate for another mate. I helped him, this particular individual, grow their vision and mission, of which I received promotions and raises and equity and shares and cash flow. I managed the money correctly because why? I know my numbers, right? Got the financial discipline part down. I could build my own organization, but if that's not my purpose, see, I know what my purpose is. It's different from his. So I'm leveraging his purpose to feed my purpose. Does that make sense? Because his vision feeds other people financially and protects them through life insurance policies. My vision, my purpose is kingdom. I teach, expand, multiply the kingdom through mastering your personal finances on an individual scale. As long as I keep walking in my purpose, right? Keep doing my thing. My needs, my requirements are met. As long as I'm a faithful servant, helper, creator, authorized with authority to authentically do what it is that I'm here to do on planet Earth. So hopefully that translates very well. That word helper, you now have a positive view on that word. Society throws that word down, right? Especially in the relationship world and the dating world, and what do you bring to the table and all this crap. If you look at the root word of what it means and how it operates, you will be operating at such a level where people will come to you in droves, by the droves, wanting, needing what it is that you got. You got a whole lot, right? So I'll end with that. Any questions? This is clear. It's good stuff.
A question.
Go ahead.
Can you go back to, you mentioned equity, and say if you're working for a company, right?
Yes.
Maybe Fortune 500 company, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I know in my industry, it's very technical, telecommunications. And I've heard stories of folks that have come up with these brilliant ideas. But of course, like you said, the company basically owns that idea, right? You work for the company and they basically own it. Is there a way to, I'm kind of asking this, I know Tanisha came in late, I know that in the previous class, I think you're in the technical field, like for the federal government, right? Like you coding, or don't quote me, I probably got it wrong, but she has all these brilliant ideas, right? And I know that there's folks that in my job, they come up with programs, all this other type of stuff to make the company that I work for great. They're global. Anyway, so how can you, or is there a way that you can do that with a company that's super huge, that has a global footprint, to say, hey man, I know my worth, I will do, do you have to leave the company? Can you contract, you still work for them? So is there a way to do that and still work for them? And like you said, kind of get into that room at those top levels, at the CEO level, like how can you do that and not lose your job? But you still want to work there. Yeah. But maybe you're like, look, man, I got this. You're not going to own my idea. Mm-hmm. How do you navigate?
So personally, these are the roles that I'm going to be looking to take people out to lunch. The C-suite executive, the chief operating officer, the chief financial officer, the chief marketing officer. I need to find out who these people are in the company. Take them out to lunch. That's step one. Take them out to lunch, breakfast, dinner. I want to meet their family. I need to get acquainted. I need to build a rapport. Every business is all done through relationships, right? So that's step one for me, is know who's in charge. Know who has authority. I need to follow authority. Boom. This lady right here has authority in my department over everybody in this whole entire conglomerate. I need to take her out to lunch, or him out to lunch. Or if that's not professional, or if it comes off, I don't know, then just say, hey, how can you and I have one-on-one time together to discuss some ideas, some ambitions that I have for this company? The fear that a lot of people have, because you watch too many movies, is your ideas get stolen. There's this misconception that your manager wants to keep you down because if you get too high, you're going to take his position and You have to drop all of that, right? Drop what you think you know about a process and just go through it, right? For the first time and actually experience it. Maybe read some books on how to grow in a, whether it's a Fortune 500 company or it could be one of the top 10,000 companies in the United States. I mean, these are all multi-billion dollar organizations, multi-million dollar organizations. They need talent. And anytime talent gets blocked, that is an opportunity for you to go around that particular authority to go above their authority. So if I have a manager that has no desire to raise me up because they're small thinkers, right? There's a lot of small thinkers out here in the world that think that once they get to a manager position that only I can do that job. Only I. No, you're not thinking right, because if you teach everybody else how to do your job, you can go up another level and another level and another level. So some people just have what it takes, right? That may be you. I'm saying you start with those who have the authority to see where their head's at. Hey, what are your ambitions for this company? Are you trying to go to the next level? Because I'd like to take your position, right? You can just be flat out. Some people are just flat out. I'm a little bit more touchy-feely, get to know you, build rapport, crack a joke or two. I want to get on your good side, preferably. I want to get on your good side first, and then I'm going to ask you some serious questions. What are your ambitions for this company? Where are you trying to go? Hey, what if I help you get a raise? Can you help me get a raise? Going back to that word, hey, what if I help you get more vacations with your wife? Because you said earlier how you work 55 hours a week, and I was doing the math. I work 40 and I barely have time for my husband, barely have time for my girlfriend, barely have time for, my wife. But you said you work 55 plus hours a week. What if there's a way where we could split the work somehow, where we can actually reduce our hourly production but increase our output effectiveness in the company? I, as a food and beverage manager in a company I worked at, I try to do that stuff. I was like, dude, you're making a schedule, you're trying to prep food, you're trying to work a staff, you're trying to manage the bar over there. Dude, you're doing too many things. Why don't you delegate a couple that stuff to me? Let me help you get a raise. In return, you can help me get a raise because I'm helping you. The company makes more profit. We all win. And then the two of us, let's get in the room with the owner of the whole, get on his or her good side. And now you're at the top of the food chain of the authority. And now you have the protection. So if there's any little mini boss that got an issue with a woman getting to this level, or a man getting to this level, whatever it is, hey, listen, I'm under a different authority, buddy, right? I recently just made C-suite executive. We're on the same authority level. Either we get along, or I need to take this up with the author, the one who created it all. That's how I look at it. It's a matter of order in a company. And I'm just going up the levels until I've hit a certain position where you can, all right, the amount of income that I'm making now, I can do these other strategies with, investing in cash flow vehicles and all this stuff. And now you become a huge asset instead of a liability, right, for the company. Does that help?
Can I just follow up on that question that Shanika had asked? I know we're short on time and I came in late, so if you can answer it really quickly, so I don't hold everybody up. But just say what Shanika was saying, but you know that your idea can bring you millions, right?
Mm-hmm.
And would it be better to step out and kind of like start your own? Because if the company gets the contract with the idea you created, they're going to get that millions to that company, but you're not going to get a piece of that million. You're just going to get a percentage, like a small amount, compared to if you was, started your own, you got the full amount. Because I'm looking money-wise, like, which is better?
Yeah, that's a tough one. So whenever I'm in a tough position, I go back to my author, right, who is the Father, and I have a corporate meeting. I set up a corporate meeting with the Father and the Son, Holy Ghost. Maybe if I have a confidant, a brother in Christ that can help me interpret the vision, the idea that I have, and I say, okay, I surrender what I think I know onto the Father. The Son is my witness, and the Holy Spirit's my lawyer. The final judgment here. He makes the decision at the meeting. And if the Father says, go to the company and share your idea, then I'm going to surrender to that. If the Father says, go off and call Joe and tell Joe your idea, because Joe is a man of Christ, a man of honor, and he's going to connect you to Tom, who knows the owner of your company, who has his own thing going on. Money's not even an issue for him. He's got no desire. Right? I'm just creating a scenario here because this is literally what happens with a lot of people if you follow order. And then Tom goes, takes your idea, and maybe you work out something with them. Or I don't know if this is the case, but maybe God says, listen, you need to go by yourself out into the wilderness, and you need to fast a little bit, and so you can actually hear what I'm trying to tell you. So I have clients where I'm like, it's going to be one of these different routes. If you're ever in a position where you have a really cool business idea or thought process, oftentimes we try to get the idea going, but we don't have any capital, any funding. So the idea dies. And guess what? Someone else beats you to the punch. That's issue number one. The other route is, okay, I have this idea. I love it so much, right? You treat it like your baby because it's your idea. This is your baby, so to speak, right? You don't want to get attached too hard to the point where you become dependent. We're supposed to be interdependent on the kingdom and know that, okay, maybe it's this idea that leads me to the next idea that produces millions of dollars. And maybe this idea just got me in the door with the right people who can make the right moves, who can expand this thing. And if I am willing to share in the wealth with the right people, then maybe I improve the outcome. Does that help?
Yes, thanks.
Okay, that's just how I like to operate when I am just confused. I'm like, dude, I got this really cool idea. I've had a bunch of really cool ideas that made no money, and I've had some cool ideas that made some really good money for myself. And there's been times where I just took the idea by myself. And there's times where I teamed up with someone to share the wealth, and other times where I try to work with someone and it didn't work out. And I think oftentimes when I go back, sit with the author first, my success percentage increases when I listen to the Father, when I listen to the Word. My rate of success has gone up every single time. And so I say, you know what, I'm just gonna stick to this because this seems to work best. So let me know if that works for you, and we can talk about it maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 sessions from now. Who knows, right? So